Hi, and welcome back. My name is Andrea Alberti. In a previous module together, we have been looking at the basics of the space assets and of satellite telecommunication. Together now, we will look into the satellite telecommunication business from a slightly different perspective. We will look at its market share, and then we will try to understand what is the impact beyond the mere business. Then we will have an overview about the ongoing changes in the satellite telecommunication, its future declinations. What we can see here is one of the most known representations of the global space market. Space market representation generally capture the overall space supply chain, from the upstream to the downstream, from the launchers to the satellite to the ground stations to the downstream services. But this and other representation, according to experts, fail to represent and capture the real impact of space beyond the downstream. We recall that the downstream market is that part of the space supply chain that interfaces with the other industrial verticals. The downstream is where the real societal and economical effects of space start to be perceived by non-space business. So let's zoom in and let's try to understand together the downstream segments of satellite telecommunication business from an economical perspective. The television services, together with the radio services, they sum up to about $98 billion. Broadband services, delivered through high-throughput satellites, account for $2.8 billion. Fixed satellite services account for $17.7 billion, while mobile satellite services represent a $2 billion of the overall global space market. In this representation, we can see that the aggregated data provide to us additional information. Satellite services as TV, radio, and broadband, they sum up to $102 billion. That is roughly the same figure that we analyzed in the first graph we analyzed. But when we look at the growth rate over the 4 years from 2014 to 2018, it cumulates to about 1%. Instead, mobile satellite services that in this representation are called radio services, they cumulate a growth rate from 2014 to 2018 of about 8%. What these data are telling us? Well, we have to look a bit beyond this data. Up to 2010, the satellite telecommunication market was dominated by operators offering two main types of services. The first one is the fixed satellite services, or FSS, as we name it, to serve fixed ground facilities through high bandwidth. These were delivered by the backbone of the telecommunication satellite industry, the incumbents. The use of satellite services was reserved for exclusive users, or, as you've seen, for satellite TV. The network services beyond satellite TV were certainly not accessible to common users, like for example, me or you. And only few businesses most likely were interested or could get access to these satellite services. The second category of satellite services are mobile satellite services, of which satellite phones are a subset. They started to appear in the mid of the 1990s. Their offering was to serve mobile users with maybe limited bandwidth, but the ability to access the network from anywhere in the world. MSS initiated a wave of vision change. The satellite network foresaw that it was limited and not meeting maybe the expected latency, could effectively be accessed by everybody, or almost. From 2011 onward, a new type of telecommunication services was made available as an alternative to the traditional fixed satellite services, that here are called wide beam. These new services, made available through high-throughput satellites, or HTS, increase the offering in terms of bandwidth and of lower cost per bit. This was extremely challenging for the fixed satellite services providers. Let's look at the consequences on the market. First of all, let's look at the capacity supplied through satellites. Fixed satellite services were able to deliver, from 2015 to 2018, an increase of capacity of about 15%. On the other side, high-throughput satellites, from 2015 to 2018, doubled their capacity. How this impacts the market? Well, let's look at the contract duration. For television services, in 2015, the average contract duration was 10 years. In 2018, it was 4 years. And for non-TV services, so normal network services, normal agreements, contracts, went from about 3 years to less than 1. Let's look at the consequences on the average price to the user of fixed satellite services. From 2015 to 2018, the prices dropped by almost 50% for both television and non-television services. Nevertheless, the overall market performance of the service providers was relatively stable. It dropped of about 10% in the overall. Over the same period of analysis, from 2015 to 2018, the consumption of satellite communication services through high-throughput satellites was steeply increasing. Beyond the financial figures, satellites have been bringing telecommunication access anywhere in the world, with a minimal infrastructure. This allowed the possibility to establish a portfolio of opportunities. The ability to support humanitarian intervention in war areas. The ability to offer rapid response and to reestablish basic services in disaster areas. The opportunity to establish distance learning methods. And to serve population with telemedicine and e-health systems. In the words of a recent report, an increase of 5% in digital access for developing countries would positively affect our world by decreasing neonatal mortality and by increasing scholarization that would lead to an increase in equal opportunities. I was mentioning a few moments ago about the turmoil in the satellite telecommunication business. Not only the incumbents initiated to deliver affordable fixed and mobile satellite services. High-throughput satellite service providers have been challenging the market with extremely competitive offering. And now, newcomers have been starting to challenge the market with value propositions that look unbeatable. We saw together how the prices of fixed satellite services have been dropping of about 50% in the period from 2015 to 2018. And here, more prices at the consumer level are reported. They are reported in terms of data allowance, that is, $ per megabyte per second per month. We can observe two things. First is that the fixed satellite services have prices that are nearly double or the triple of high-throughput satellite services. The second element is that over the period from 2018 to 2021, the prices kept decreasing for both FSS and HTS. And now, let's look at how newcomers are disrupting the market of telecommunications satellite. Newcomers have been recently entering the market by offering a value proposition to the final user that is comparable to what ground infrastructure services are offering us, both in terms of price and of performance. The difference is that the services of satellite telecommunication newcomers can be literally accessed from anywhere in the world. When we look at satellite telecommunications or any type of services and products, we have to try to understand with whom we are interfacing. In the case of satellite telecommunications, most of the times we are interfacing with service providers. A small reminder: every time that we are looking at services or products from any type of industrial vertical, in general, we are interfacing with the last bit of the supply chain that is of interest for us. In the case of satellite telecommunication services, the final users are generally interested to interface with the downstream segment. The downstream segment of satellite telecommunication is generally served through providers that are offering the services that leverage on the space assets that have been built by infrastructure integrators. There are only few cases of vertical integrators that build the full supply chain from the upstream up to the service delivery to the final users. This reminder, because there is an increasing amount of offerings that are coming up. Offering that want to deliver broadband network capabilities, or try to leverage on different or niche business models, as it is the case of satellite IoT, or for the case of communication networks that are specific of dedicated space assets, like for example, Earth observation satellites. The landscape of satellite operators that propose tailored network services at affordable prices for dedicated user segments is constantly expanding. Each operator and each new service tries to nurture a specific value proposition and a specific market segmentation.